track and through the seasons. I mean, each has their own personality and life. And then this sounds silly. Every time I take a job at a historic site, first thing I do is I go in the building and introduce myself. You know, I go in and say, hey, this is who I am. I'm here to protect you. And, that's what we're supposed to do. But people don't understand sometimes that historic structures, because they're living, speak to people. If you do it right and you interpret a building correctly or a structure correctly, it speaks to people. And if you don't preserve it, if you don't take care of it, you're killing something, basically. And you're killing part of our history, but you're also killing something that's significant to the land at that point. So, it's one of the reasons.
It'd be a tragedy if the mill was lost.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. A tragedy.
Our challenge is to, my challenge and Paul's challenge is to be preservationists and at the same time use the mill as a functioning entity. And they're in conflict quite often. You know something's going to break. I mean, that's just part of running the mill. It's
happening to it for 260 years.
That's right.
Not going to stop now.
But it's really a tough problem for me to know how far to run the mill, knowing that that we want this place to be around in 50 and 100 years from now in the same way it is now. Operate it but not change it. That's hard. It's really hard.
It's tough questions. I mean,
it's one thing to have a standing building that's static. That's pretty easy. But when you're trying to operate it, and yet if you don't operate it, our mission is lost.
It loses a lot. It loses all its character.
I mean, when you come and see the mill operating, you won't believe what a difference there is between seeing it statically and seeing it operating. It just becomes a breathing machine. So you got to do it.
And it's always as open as a public site. You're also always at risk, putting the structure at risk.
Just having people come through.
Just having people come through it. Well, it does affect deterioration.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the big meetings we had at Drayton Hall. Was we were doing about 85,000 visitors a year, and by having that many people go through the house, you're inherently slowly destroying that house. And so there was a discussion of like, should we limit the number of people that go through the house on a yearly basis?
Yeah, right. Those are tough questions.
I mean, we're not anywhere near that point yet. We're working towards trying to get a lot of people to the place, but there eventually, if we're successful, that's a question we're going to eventually have to ask of ourselves. What is our limit of allowing people to come into the mill without destroying the mill? And I mean, so it's these complicated questions that deal with preservation as a public site.